following is my conversation from a live panel at the 2024 Cycling World event in Dusseldorf. The topic of the conversation was COVID overstocks and the state of the industry and the aftermath. My guests at the panel were Anatol Sostman, the product and brand director from Rosa Bikes, Eric Fenner, the marketing director from Old Man Mountain, and Karsten Wien, the owner of the boutique bike shop Schicke Mütze. This is the Business of Cycling podcast.
So today, in the past, we'll say, especially this year, COVID has been a huge topic. And for that reason, I thought it would be nice to kind of bring some industry professionals to the event, to this event, and to kind of just do a recap of kind of what we saw over the last 18 months, kind of since the COVID overstock situation kind of started. So that is going to be the topic today. To my left is Anatol from Rosa Bikes, and he is the marketing manager.
Actually, I'm director for product and brand. Yeah, it means I'm responsible for product development, the brand management, brand marketing side of cycling at Rosa Bikes.
And Rosa, I'm sure everybody knows Rosa, huge brand, e-com website as well. And then we've got Eric Fenner from Old Man Mountain.
Yeah, it's Old Man Mountain and Robert Axel Project, so small little company with two brands out in Bend, Oregon.
From the U.S. And then we have Karsten.
Where are you actually based? In Colorado?
Bend, Oregon, so Central Oregon.
Sorry.
Yeah.
And then we have Karsten from Schicke Mütze. Schicke Mütze. My German is not good at all, so I apologize. Okay, so I guess we'll just dive in today. We're going to do about 30 minutes, and then we'll take some questions if anyone has questions. So the first kind of question that I wanted to ask, and we'll kind of see how this goes. This is the first panel I've done. So I'll throw it out there, and we'll kind of see who wants to jump in. Feel free, guys. But I guess from what we understood, just to kind of do a recap, I know everybody's probably knows this story, but we're going to just kind of run through it again, was during COVID, there was a moment where between lockdowns and between just kind of the policies that were in place, that cycling became one of the few activities that people could actually partake in. And we're talking around 2020, 2021. And at this moment, essentially what happened, and you guys can correct me, but all of the bike shops basically emptied out the stocks that they had. The pipeline of the supply chain was essentially emptied as well. And then because of this demand, because of COVID, there was an incredibly high demand because people couldn't go to gyms. They couldn't go to their gym. They couldn't go to sporting events. So basically cycling was the only kind of activity that was compatible with this COVID situation. So I'm just going to recap this real quick. Essentially what happened was, at that point, there was a huge spike in demand. People were ordering bikes at shops. And so that essentially was then kicked up to the suppliers, and the suppliers kicked it up to their producers. And so the pipeline of ordering was overwhelmed, and so there was a huge backlog of orders. And when this happened, it was sort of a free-for-all where whoever could get the order in and whoever could get the attention of the producers was able to have the production start. And what I've noticed in kind of the research that I've done was that the larger brands, and we'll talk about this later, the larger brands were the ones that were able to get precedent. But I guess maybe we'll jump in, just to let you guys jump in real quick. So when you guys at Rosa were having these issues, what was it like? I guess just really quickly, was it just get the orders in and let's try and get the product to the stores as quickly as possible?
Yes, but of course it's a little bit different because I think there are general market developments and tendencies, and on the other hand, I think every brand has its own specific story to tell when it comes to COVID. Talking about the the big players like Shimano and SRAM and the tire manufacturers and stuff, of course, it was pretty hard to get, not just to get your orders in, but you could get your orders placed, but you did not really get an answer or an estimated, let's say, shipping window. So it was kind of hard to really calculate when are we gonna be able to build a certain bike. So in the ideal situation, you can like place orders to certain dates.
Lead times.
And lead times, and you can just start to build a bike when you want to build a bike. But at this time, let's say there was like a range which was like almost a year between, like you could get a rack right now, but the tires or, I don't know, the group sets you wanted would come 1 year later.
Okay.
And that made the whole supply chain very dysfunctional.
So I think what we can take from that, then there was incredible unpredictability for the bike brands. For a company so Eric's company makes racks for the most part. That's your kind of your main. And do you guys produce in the Far East or do you produce in the USA?
Yeah, so it was a really interesting time for us. We acquired the brand from the original owner in 2019, and he still makes racks for us in the US, but in small quantities, 50 a month, if that. So yeah, we moved to Taiwan, but in 2020, we were just at the point of placing our first big rack order in Taiwan. So in early February, March, that was when we were making that first big PO with the factories, and our original timeline, was going to be 9-10 months for that order. And then suddenly everybody else in the industry cut their orders when the beginning of the pandemic happened. So we actually got all our stuff way faster than expected.
So did you guys
benefited
so
from
that order was sort of fortuitous?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
for us, it just worked out really
Okay.
well. That
So
we
to
got
give
really
people an idea of scale, you guys are a smaller brand. So
Yeah.
you guys sort of had not lucky, but you did have, with the fact that you were doing sort of a new company startup order that you had, so you had enough to cover a
Yeah, so
big chunk of COVID.
Our Axle brand, Robert Axle Project, it's been around since 2013. So that company was there making the money to float us relaunching this other brand. So us, like that order was 4,000 or 5,000 racks. It wasn't a worry for us to put that out there and get them earlier, see that timeline. If anything, it was just great for us to get them early and be able to launch earlier in the season, especially because demand was picking up so fast by that summer of 2020. On the other hand, our axle brand, demand went wild because we make trainer axles. So all of these people with COVID were trying to buy trainers like crazy, and it was just whatever trainer you can
So
get.
trainer axles for any big producers?
Well, we sell them directly. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's,
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
So through axles for trainers. So everybody's out there buying bikes, they're buying trainers, and then they're finding out, hey, they don't fit together without an additional piece. And we work with 3 small machine shops in Central Oregon.
You're able to keep up.
Right around us, yeah. And so we were able to just say, hey, we've worked with you forever. We know these are crazy numbers we're putting in right now, but can you do it? And they put in overtime. They made it happen. So
Awesome.
it was lucky with a small local scale.
Karsten, I'm sure you had some fun. I have to ask you, did you guys just empty the entire store from 2020 to 2021? Was it?
To be honest, not because we were happy situation. We plan to move.
So you said that. What is the UK? I'm sorry. What does the UK have to do with your business?
Yeah, we're large partner of Genesis in the UK with the Quad Affair, and that was our main bicycle. And back in the days, I might recall, and they said it's nearly impossible to get any bikes anymore because in London cycling is booming, absolutely. And so we are just a really small shop, and so we had a stock of 1 Shimano group set at that day, and what I did, I ordered nearly every frame they had, and I ordered a lot of group sets at Shimano, and because we were quite early at that point, so we received everything. And then it needed a while, and we had people coming over and asking for individual builds. And we built bikes up and reordered the next group sets because we said, okay, this situation will last longer. And this was something that was working for us. So we were more or less, for nobody it was a lucky situation at the end, but it didn't harm us so much like larger brands that got more difficult.
So the next question that I wanted to ask was, what do you think about which categories were most affected? I know that kids' bikes were definitely, there was a lot of over-ordering on the kids' bikes and the entry-level bikes. Anecdotally, it feels like cycling clothing went a little bit crazy, but cycling clothing is crazy anyway. I don't know, what do you think, Anatol, about like which categories were most affected by kind of the hangover from COVID?
Okay, I think that you have a large effect on some special segments in the market which were mainly over demanded, and on the other hand you have some segments that are now weakening, but to be honest they've been weakening before, but the effect in the end has even gotten stronger. Kids bikes is not our business, so I'm not really able to talk about that, because I bought like 2 or 3 kids bikes in this period, so I'm not guilty on declining of kids bikes. For us, I think mountain biking, especially non-electric mountain biking and entry-level mountain biking, has been the weakest category so far. But we did not cut any orders because our business is growing double-digit numbers since a couple of years now, and COVID was in the midst of it, but it really, like I said, we didn't really suffer from bad numbers or a large overstock at the moment. We're really suffering from the dysfunctionality or unreliable lead times in the market. So it's harder to plan your business.
It's harder to plan, but your company specifically did not overorder.
We did not really overorder, because if lead times were kind of correct and we could have built the bikes at the correct times, we sure could have sell like the double amount of bikes in 2021. But in the end, you can only build up. It's the same even if it's a small or large business. It's the same. The capacity you have is limited to a certain amount of bikes. The inventory is limited to a certain amount of pieces or SKUs. And even if the market is really overflowing, a company, an organization needs more time to adapt. And so if everybody wants bikes, I think most of the stores, a lot of segments were sold out. But the large effect was that the big suppliers, or a lot of suppliers, could not really deliver in a expected time, which led to a overstock in OE parts, let's say 15 months ago. So there was a large stock of OE, and 1 year later...
What do you mean by OE? Give us some examples.
Like bike parts, frames, parts, but you know, a bike is like a puzzle made of 100 plus parts, and you cannot build and you cannot sell a bicycle where you just got 80% of the parts. So you need to fulfill your,
So it all goes back to this, the really unpredictable timing of the delivery of all the parts.
Mostly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had some experience with that where, like you're saying, if you're missing one piece, you don't have a bike you can sell. And so we had some very large companies that would never come to us for OEM. Like, we're a high-end axle. We can't meet the prices of straight from overseas production. But like Santa Cruz bought 50 or 100 axles from us because they needed them to finish their builds. You know, it was like, I think it was just fronts. They had everything else except for those. But during that time, because we had those local producers, we could sit and we shipped them, you know, the same day as they put the order in, and they're there the following day in California. So that was something we saw throughout, is extreme gratitude because we actually were able to ship, and a lot of surprise from it when the orders actually showed up because people would place the order assuming it actually wouldn't ship for 6 months or a year with the experience they were having with everyone else.
When it comes to needs, it was that people are asking for commuter bikes. That was important in the first moment. And because we are concentrating on sportive bikes, so we mostly have race bikes and gravel bikes, that's all. And that was the second part. People are really interested in what you said, because no one was allowed to go to the gym anymore. And people want to meet, and they want to spend some time outside together. So riding a race bike was an option, and a lot of people discovered race bike during that period.
Yeah, we also, because of our axle sales, with the variability of thread pitch and length and width of axles, we have everybody use an axle finder and tell us what their bike is. And then because people still do it wrong, we have them confirm on their checkout. Like they have to write in what their bike is. So we get a really good set of data of what people are buying for. And we saw a shift, which had always trended this way, but became more extreme, of the number one bike we were selling kid trailer axles for was a Specialized Turbo Levo. So towing with full suspension mountain bike, but taking kids around during the pandemic definitely jumped up a lot.
So we sort of kind of painted the picture of the effects of the pandemic. We talked about how these unpredictable supply chain behaviors because of the oversupply, the overordering and the undersupply. Now, I don't know if anyone heard, but Trek recently announced that they would be cutting 40% of their SKUs in 2025, which, if you know Trek, they have a lot of colorways, but 40% of their SKUs is incredible, and they're going to cut 10% of their workforce. And Trek is, it's a workhorse in the industry. It's always been really solid, really conservative, family-owned, Wisconsin-based. And this is anecdotal, but I think that from what I've heard, like I was saying earlier, the biggest players were able to get to the production the fastest, and they produced the most product. And from this situation that we're seeing with Trek, it looks like that's what happened, that everyone was just elbowed out of the way. And Trek, and I know that anecdotally Cannondale has huge overstocks. So I guess from this situation, I kind of wanted to shift to, I guess, how are you guys doing now? Like, what are you guys seeing now?
Funny, I worked for Trek between 2010 and 2016. I know John Burke quite well. I've spent some time in the headquarters. Like you said, it's very solid. It's a great company, but there are some illnesses in the whole industry, and I think complexity in sizing, models, colorways. Everything we do has to be like the perfect fit for everybody. And I think if we have one lesson learned, everybody now, is like lowering complexity and really rethinking customer needs and, let's say, redefining the model that you're using when it comes to product design, product management and stuff. Because you don't need like a platform with 13 different models, 5 different colors, and 9 sizes. That's over the top. But it kind of worked for a long time. When everything is predictable, the whole machine, which is like a BMW motor, everything is super complex. But if it's broken,
If it's not broken,
don't
broken, fix it.
yeah, but we really need to bring complexity down.
Okay, but how are you guys doing?
Great. We're doing great. You said John Burke announced they are lowering their SKUs by 40%. We already did, which is something that we really did very early, because to be honest, I can't stand it. We got a broad portfolio as well, and my ambition was really to make it sexy again, or even first time really sexy. And on the other hand, it's like attractive. And now we're seeing that it really works out pretty well. But the complexity was so huge. And sometimes you're not making a decision based on a customer. You're making a decision because there's that one supplier who wants to place the group set in your portfolio.
So when did you guys make this decision to pare back?
Yeah, it's in the middle of COVID, because I think one advantage for a direct-to-consumer brand that you get that direct feedback from the market, from the consumer, and you can really read tendencies a little earlier than the big ships that really need that or retail.
It's a longer tail.
Yeah.
Eric, we know you guys are fine.
So we obviously saw a huge jump in 2020 and 2021, but we did actually, 2022 was 13% down from 21. So there was a massive drop in September of 21.
But that was across the board. In terms of overstocks, how are you guys doing?
Our only issue is ever understock. Like, we're generally good. If we run out of stock of something, we can usually get it back in like a week or two. But our production team, we run a slim crew. And so that was our biggest challenge, was when everything was going crazy.
Keeping up with the demand.
Do we hire? But we didn't want to, because we assumed that it would be temporary. And so we didn't want to hire people and just lay them off in a year. And so we ended up doing a lot of homework. We're supposed to wait or not? See how that goes? Yeah. So rather than hire a bunch more production employees assembling and packaging axles, we actually just offered homework to all of our employees, where if they wanted to take axles home and just sit and watch TV and package axles, we'd just pay them per piece during that time. And so we had a lot of overtime hours, and it left us to a spot where we didn't have to do any layoffs when the reduction did come in sales. But coming back from that, this past year, 2023, was huge, massive growth, and January of just this year was actually our second biggest month ever. In January, makes no sense, but it's been a great year so far.
And Karsten, how are you guys doing now?
We're quite well. We still have some little overstocks in a few, some bikes, but nothing that makes us fear. We had this situation in between that we moved places, and we had a massive problem with that, because when we moved over, we tried to open the new place, and it was not allowed because of the city council. So we survived on 40 square meters one whole season, and that completely brought us to the ground. But now we're 1.5 years of normal business. We're back, and this is quite good. And we've never been so big that there were orders that were so massive that we had to cause problems out of that.
Have you had to discount at all?
To be honest, yes, once. We never did a discount before, and this is something I'm starting in the bicycle industry 10 years ago. I come out of music industry, and I was a bit wondering about all these model changes and every year, and I didn't understand that and didn't see any need in that, pricing down everything in the stores because of a new color scheme. The only special order we did was last year's Black Friday, because we really needed to do something.
To get rid of some
We
products.
had some problems, and I just wanted to try it, and it didn't work out, because people don't expect us to be a sale brand, and that's quite good. Because I think the things we buy, they're good, and at least they will be also good in 2 years, and you don't have to hurry to buy them, and next year will be better.
Okay. Yeah, it seems like your brands have coped. The companies here have coped well, but what do you think about the industry as a whole? Has the industry learned anything from all this?
I'm not sure, because until now the situation did not repeat. But I guess that greed, as one of the matters, the roots of what happened, will be just a very natural habit in our human behavior. If this happens again, the question will be, how will we all cope with a pandemic? Will we go back to all these crazy stuff that we just experienced, where you have to wear like masks and you have to stop meeting people? So I guess we'll deal differently with another situation, but I think that from a business side or from a capitalist side of life, I think it's gonna repeat. But of course, all the people who've really burned their hands or the money will definitely learn and be like a little bit more cautious with what they will do. Pretty sure.
Yeah, I think the issue of the phantom back orders that people were dealing with, where if you needed a chain, you just and couldn't get it, you placed orders with every single chain manufacturer.
Yes.
And then just took what you could get, but doesn't mean you told the other people to cancel those orders, or they already put production in.
That's something I think would be hard to repeat, because I think now that we saw that,
I struggle with that, because I would hope that's true, but at the same time, if someone places an order for 100 chains from me, and
you're going to make them
chains, like, it'd be hard for me to go, no, I'm only going to make 50, and just assume it's not real. Like, it would be the safer bet, but you're also just turning down 50 sales potentially. So I'd be really curious to see what happens again, basically.
Maybe it's not just a situation of what was happening during COVID. It's also a situation about how you run your business. And I hope that the whole industry will have some different views. And like you said, less models, to concentrate on things people really need, not to offer everything maybe everybody wants, but you can sort that out. And if you find solutions for that, we will better. I'm sure there will be a day we will have a new pandemic with anything. Not sure if it's our generation, but there will come things like that. And I hope we all learned a bit out of that.
Yeah, maybe that's the lesson to learn, is the SKU reduction, like you're talking about, like focusing on the core line for larger brands at least that have these much larger supply chains to handle and manage, them focusing on the core lines, and rather than try to be everything to everyone, let niche brands do that. I mean, our brands are definitely niche. We make through axles and bike packing specific racks. And we've really, really benefited from being in those niches and not going outside of it. So maybe that'll be the major brands finding their core customer and sticking there will make them safer, but also open up an opportunity for smaller brands to fill those needs they left.
Well, I'm actually really, really surprised. You know, I imagine this conversation would be much more catastrophic, honestly, because from what I see and what I hear, but I'm glad to see that you guys are doing well. I'm really happy that that's the situation. But yeah, I'm glad we got to come together today and kind of look into this. I guess to kind of wrap up, I wanted to take a few questions. If anyone has questions for the panel.
Better ask a good one, John.
Nobody.
So a question following up on Rose. You said that the interaction with the consumers changed. Has the processes in the marketing changed?
I'm sorry, I didn't really understand the first part of your question.
Okay, you said assembling bikes, doing the product management on how to plan what bikes are coming out, what models, by also decreasing the number of SKUs. You said that you need to look differently at the consumer and the customers. Has that changed, or have you implemented any major changes in how you do the marketing, the planning, or processes that you're doing?
That's a very, so I could answer with like a whole long story. To try to make it short, I've came up in a marketing, from a marketing perspective, with a like psychological approach on why do people ride a bike, like just a motivational approach. So working in a very category based like a system that all or most other brands work with, it's always like running through a product life cycle, and afterwards you're putting the successor to it. It's lighter, it's stiffer, it's more innovative, it's more expensive, or like you said. But this can't be the strategy. I think there's more to put into a product which really fits the needs. First, we thought it's important to really point out which features attract a customer, but in the end, it's the truth. If you put all these thoughts in the beginning of a product development process, you'll really get a better product. And it's like a design philosophy that we founded. It's called experience-based design, and I think we're trying to see a sharper psychological profile of a customer. And if you like have something that helps you to see better or different, it makes you able to produce a better thought product. And if the platform's working pretty well, you don't need like 13 models from it. And it's just, in the end, it's very holistic. It makes the product better and lowers complexity.
So it sounds like something that we came back to a few times today was that there were line extensions and product development innovations for the sake of developing more products, for the sake of telling the market that you have more products, not for a real reason that the market was asking for. Is that a fair statement? Previously.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of people here who have insights into the industry, and if you know that people, they are very keen to do better products every day, but if the market is not really ready for it, it's a little way too early. So you got to put the right.
But there are situations where it's just, I can call it lazy, to just, this year we need new products. So we're just going to make a new color because we need a new product. Because if we don't have a new product, we don't have anything to talk about.
Mm-hmm. But a new color is not a new product.
I know it's not, but it's different.
Yeah, it's another color.
I guess I'm just saying that the industry has definitely, in my experience, and I think what we're saying is the industry has gotten a bit lazy and gotten maybe just a little bit, they're relying a little bit too much on innovation for the sake of innovation rather than John?
Check, check. I had an epiphany just now. I didn't mean to interrupt you, by the way, but we have a manufacturer of bikes, an accessory manufacturer, and a bike shop.
We do.
I don't know if that was like the plan, because it's kind of like a food chain.
It was the plan.
That's awesome. I was like, I know these brands, but I didn't think about it that way. But when I was thinking about that, where I was coming from, like a theme for me this year has been like community as opposed to ads or just regular marketing. So my question was kind of like how you guys, as a shop, accessories manufacturer, bike manufacturer, which is I think B2C, so you're typically not in shops, I think, right?
It's not just digital, right?
Okay.
It's not just an e-commerce organization. We're running a couple of shops in
okay.
Germany and Switzerland.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But then like looking forward, like post-corona now, like the advice I give and the work that I do of doing more community-based events or getting people together or leaning on shops, and I know shops for a while didn't want to maybe work with brands that were just B2C and those kinds of things. How do you guys see that changing moving forward, like in your respective roles? Like, is that going to get back to like what it was, or are things going to change in that regard? Kind of the B2C, B2B, leaning on the shops. Maybe I go to you first, Carsten.
After COVID, I think a lot of brands discovered this community thing. And our shop was built out of community. We were coming out of organizing rides together. And because no shop offered the things we liked, and we don't want to buy everything online. So we talked to a few stores and they said, nobody will buy that. People buy that just online, so we said, okay, we open a shop with things nobody will buy. But we're coming out of the community thing and organizing rides, and that was always important for us. And this is something I recognize after COVID, because everything broke down, and now everybody is talking about community and building up, and what we were the niche, and now it's interesting for larger brands as well. I think doing rides, organizing things, bringing people together. This is something that always was difficult for stores. Difficult was important for stores, bringing people together. And you can't do that online. I'm no big fan of online retail. I never will, I'm too old. But I like the idea of good shops where people meet and talk about things. And I'm coming out of the music industry, and a lot of bands were founded that way, and because they're meeting in a record shop. And this is, in my eyes, also a possibility for good bike shop bringing people together.
No, it's a beautiful way to grow a healthy business. But I think I don't think they're mutually exclusive, because I'm a bit biased. I do work in performance marketing and e-com. That's my specialty. And, people do want to discover brands online as well. So I think that they're both equally important. But yeah, I think in lieu of that, one thing that I have learned is bikes are difficult to sell online. You have to be very sophisticated. Only certain brands can really do it well. You have to have the box. You have to have the type of customer that will buy it online. At least that's the experience that I've had. So I think there's room for both, but bikes are especially, and we could go into a whole other direction. Like, there are certain products that are susceptible to being taken out of shops and sold online, like clothing. Clothing is impossible to sell in a store because you're going to see it online on sale. And
we sell a lot of clothing, and I'm always when I talk to people in our shop and see if you're buying shoes, cycling shoes, it's a bit like running shoes. You have to have something.
You do have to try them, yeah.
And it's the same with a lot of bibs. When you see people starting, because during COVID, a lot of people started buying bicycles, and they buy their first bib online. And they come around and you put your finger underneath and it's far too wide. And all these things, people recognize it's a different thing if you wear it and try it, and sending everything back. It's not good for an online.
No,
and don't get me wrong, I'm not discussing, because I'm sure online is completely important for a lot of people, and it's working very well for a lot of people. But there are things like helmets, shoes, and bibs.
People want to try. People want to try.
Yeah.
But I think that comes down to the fact that you've built a strong community, and it's shops like that have the shop rides, that have the strong community, that the customer might know they can get it $20 cheaper online or $50 cheaper online, but they want to support your shop because you've brought these other people together and things for them. At least that's what I've seen in the strong shops around me. I mean, there's some small, very culturally rich shops around me that are way, way too expensive. Like, double the price for a chain that it should be. Just ridiculous stuff. Like, I know what that costs from the distributor, and you're marking it up 10 times, for basics. But people still go there constantly because they've created such a strong culture. They just want to go there and hang out and join the community rides that are happening, 3-4 times a week.
No, this is really beautiful. This is like what's so cool about cycling, in the sense that there are like communities online, and then there are the communities that are around the stores. But I wanted to get back. So, are there any other questions? Because we could go another hour on this topic here, but
well, I'll jump back on the one about the marketing changes based on like small iterations just so that you can have the press release. I think that's a very common refrain, especially in the comment sections on sites like Pink Bike or something.
Can you explain that a little more? I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, you see it in comment sections a lot where a new bike comes out and it seems, it's a 15% stiffer and 10% lighter. Like these small gains, it's like, is that really worthy of a new model versus just using the same existing model?
Well, that's exactly what we were saying. That's exactly what we were saying, was that there was this innovation for the sake of innovation, to have a press release, to have a post, to have, an article.
Yeah, we launched a bike, it's called Bonero. And we got the color Sandy Taco. And it was Sandy Taco.
Sandy Taco?
Yeah, it was the most fun comment section on Pink Bike.
Sandy Taco looks like.
So, yeah, I think I totally agree on the cultural benefit and the cycling communities that are as a regional phenomenon. And I really admire all the shops that do that boutique-like thing with niche brands, because all these brands need to take place. Because we're pushing them exactly to these sites, and I think when we're growing, you're growing as well, and this is good. It's like a law of nature. But on the other hand, I got to tell that you can build communities in a digital way as well.
Absolutely.
And you can inspire a lot of people to get into cycling or to identify with your brand. And this is something that we did over the last couple of years, apart from sports marketing, because the industry is pretty good in sponsoring people, like sponsoring athletes, sponsoring teams, and hoping that they'll stand on the top of a podium and build the whole brand on these sports successes. For me, it was necessary to differentiate our marketing approach from that technique that is mainly used in the market. And I think this makes us a little bit different. So we're working more with like people who represent the brand on a more value or aesthetic or community-based background. And this works pretty well, even in a digital world.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I've taken a similar approach, partially because of what our product is. We're not going after racing too much. Keep an eye out on us for the future, though. But yeah, it's focusing on groups that are creating communities, like focusing on YouTubers that are, really have a strong connection with their audience and are actually being helpful. And I mean, even just directly with our customers, we've created a really strong community with our audience through our customer service. Like, we have live chat on the site. And just through email contact, almost every single conversation is going beyond what our product is about, and we'll just start asking the person about the trips they're going to go on and what they're doing, and just because we were curious and had the time to email them back about those things.
This is very American.
Yeah. But it's made people really, it's given them a great outlet where suddenly they're asking about products completely unrelated to us and just asking if we have recommendations for this on their trip, or bike packing meals that we like, or have you ever done this route and stuff. And it's these people that don't have a community and have found our customer service line to be really helpful.
Right, they just want to talk about cycling.
Yeah, they're trying to find a connection.
Yeah.
I mean, I've done a handful of in-bike shop clinics of just how to get into bikepacking 101 classes. And every single one, the question afterwards is, this is all great info, but what now?
Right.
Like, how do I actually go on my first trip? Because they want someone to go with. If they're the only person in their friend group that wants to do it, they need that nudge of another person to go with them. So I've definitely talked to every organization I can to go, please start doing intro rides. All the guide services I know that are doing shuttles, just mountain bike shuttle rides, I'm like, please start doing backpacking guided rides too.
Well, I think we can close there. I really appreciate you guys coming out today. I think this was fun. We're going to post this on the podcast. It's The Business of Cycling. We're on Spotify, iTunes, yeah, Apple Music. as well as the Google podcast. So thank you everyone for coming out today, and have a great Cycling World 2024.